Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Sunshine Coast Regional District regular board meeting of Thursday, October 14th, 2021. I am here to call us to order at 2:02 p.m., and I'd like to acknowledge that the Sunshine Coast Regional District operates on the traditional territories of the Shishalt and the Squamish First Nations. We have an amended agenda here in front of us today, and before we move to adopt this amended agenda, I'm going to ask if there are any other items that need to be added to it. Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt the amended agenda, please. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. I'm going to ask for a motion to receive all minutes, delegation materials, reports, and communications, please. So moved and seconded. Seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. The first item we have on our agenda is the minutes of our regular board meeting of September 23rd, 2021, Annex A, pages 1 through 6 of our package. Are there any errors, omissions, additions that need to be done before we continue or before we move to adopt these minutes? No? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt the regular board meeting minutes of September 23rd, 2021. So moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Is there any business arising from the minutes or unfinished business? I see nothing from directors, nothing from staff. Okay, so with that, the next item we have an in-person delegation today. And as you may note, our delegation, as required by provincial health order, will be, they are masked and they will have to remain masked within our boardroom. For those of us that are in person in the boardroom, directors as well as staff members under provincial health order, we are able, while we are at our workplaces, to be unmasked, and the delegation has been separated from us by a significant distance. So we are operating within provincial health orders in that way. So with that, I'm going to pass it on over to our delegation, Joff Bedford, Carl Glackmeyer, Bud Hoffman, Howard Bishop, the Post Group, regarding regarding water sources, the Dusty Road well. And gentlemen, please go ahead when you're ready, and looking forward to the conversation.
Good. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Council members of the board of the SCRD and the administration representatives of the SCRD. My name is Bud Hoffman. I have on my right, Jeff Bedford, Carl Glackheimer, and Howard Bishop was unable to attend. As the Post Group, which is an acronym for Positive Outcome Solution Thinkers, we are here at the invitation of the chair, Lori Pratt. Presumably, this is because of a pamphlet that was distributed through a variety of means. We used take ones at more than 20 mailbox locations, bulletin boards, a table at the market. We also did vehicle distribution at 3 of the larger malls, and we distributed in excess of 2,500 of these pamphlets for information purposes. The result of that was that we had numerous comments supporting the initiative. I would say that there is almost universal contempt for the lack of seemingly action and results by the SCRD. And this was confirmed, I guess, by the Coast Reporter of August the 20th in answer to the question, are you confident in the SCRD's plans to deal with water shortages on the coast? As you are probably aware, 93% responded no. Our presentation of the facts really, in our mind, require no further explanation. Our strong further recommendation was essentially to use and utilize the Dusty Road well site as, excuse me, as indicated in the Infrastructure Services Report Committee, and I've got the full report here. I don't know how many of you have gone through this and read it, but there is an abundance of information in here. It clearly states that the Dusty Road well site, the potential is well capable of delivering 5,000 cubic meters per day. This well site is probably the best producing flow and the cheapest to develop. And we believe it is on the within the district of Seashield as well. Pages 4 or 5 of the report for the Dusty Road site indicated no risk of contamination from the Seashell landfill, but identified that the risk could possibly be impacted for long-term future use by the scale of the quarry expansion. However, having said that, we find that the report itself is quite negligent in doing follow-up properly. Jeff went further to get a letter dated October the 5th, 2021. This is from the government, Peter Robb, Assistant Deputy Minister. He clearly outlines the Water Sustainability Act for any mining activity under the Mines Act. The Act itself prohibits anything that can affect the quality or quantity of flow of any sustainable water source. It would seem that this was the major reason why this well site was not pursued. Clearly, if the mining cannot interfere with that activity, neither will we if we drop a well site down there. On page 27 of your document, the test indicated access to Lehigh Quarry Well 5 proved problematic. There was difficulty contacting the quarry manager or other quarry employees to arrange an escort for the hydrogeologist to the site. Excuse me, that's not an acceptable response. If you've hired somebody to do the well site inspection and they can't find the time to get in touch with people at the quarry in order to get a tour of the potential site, obviously they haven't done their job. And you guys should have been on top of that. It would appear also that the Dusty Road site wasn't examined to the full potential. The drilling stopped at 274 feet. There are 2 aquifer layers there. It stopped right at the point where you get a layer of clay that, if pursued further, would probably have impacted the other 2 stratas. And the aquifers are clearly indicated on a number of maps regionally as being a 2-step site for an aquifer 4 and an aquifer 6. To summarize this, our suggestion to pursue the Dusty Road site is based, A, solely on your information that you provide. It would seem to be a great option to provide water for the possibility of the 4 months of each year that we on the coast find that the water supply from Chapman Lake is not sufficient to meet the demand over the summer period. Exploration of this site would provide a safety net for the next 3 to 5 years, while a long-term plan could be developed for implementation beyond. For an example, Clohome. And Clohome, there was a report done by Graham Moore on August the 21st, which I'm sure that you probably all have had access to, and he went into considerable detail on the potential for that site. Presently, Church Road has potential for only 2,500 cubic meters, probably not before late 2022. Possibly a little earlier, but probably not. The water meters as an option do not provide any new additional water source and are probably not going to be effective beyond 2023, possibly a little into 2024, depending on how long it takes to install them and get them working. The effective saving after leaks are detected and repaired is probably nil. So you are going to see some savings from water meters, no question. But it's not going to be continuous, and it's not going to add new water. Plus which, the cost of $7.25 million is a heck of a lot of money for water that isn't added, but potentially is being saved if there's no way that you're going to save $7.25 million within the next number of years. There's no way. It'll pay for the meters, sure. It'll pay for the installation, yes. It won't pay for the actual cost or the value of $7.25 million. All of this leads us to the questions of why we are still pondering options after numerous reports going back as far as 20 years. When the awareness of potential water access to satisfy future demands has not been actively planned or executed. So our questions are, why there has been no attempt to initiate a temporary license status while examining the best site in the current Dusty Road location? Why has there been almost zero activity for the infrastructure in the potential Church Road site? I know that you're pursuing it, and I know you're doing your best with it probably, but you're still waiting for licenses. And why has the SCRD not made any demand of the provincial government prior to mid-August? And that demand came from the board. It did not come from the administration, who I believe should be charged with the responsibility to get that licensing. So where is the responsibility being acted upon? Since 2018, I guess we've just assumed that the provincial government would do their job, but nobody's holding their feet to the fire. As far as I'm concerned, the administration should be on the phone every second day, calling our MLA, calling Victoria. We're in a dire situation here. If you ask the people in Vancouver or the people in Victoria about our water situation, they say, what are you talking about? Unless you're living here, you're probably not even aware of it, and they don't seem to be. Or if they are, they're not aware of how acute it is. We have to hold their feet to their fire. And I think that, if I can say, excuse me, that as chair, your letter of August did that. But for the first time in 2 years, what happened prior to that? In fact, it's almost 3 years since the last letter was done. Why hasn't the administration been pursuing that? Why has our MLA, Nicholas Simmons, not been more active? Sure, he's done some stuff. He said, well, I'm behind it and I'm going to support it. But it doesn't seem like he's doing very much. He's been in that position for a number of years now, and he still isn't, he's still considered a backbencher. I think it's time that somebody lit a fire under his feet, and you're the people to do it, and that's what we're asking for. The SCRD appears to be concerned about why something cannot be done, as opposed to initiating the infrastructure and looking after licensing. For the brief time we have to ask these questions, what we're saying is the Short-term solution does not allow for a long-term planning session, but Dusty Road would provide the breathing space and the room, apparently. If it's allowed to go further, to proceed, there does not seem to be any logical explanation why it hasn't been pursued, which would allow you to do your planning and release a plan for the long-term basis that would see us get beyond a drought situation every summer. So my question is it going to be another 20 years before we actually get something here? Or if the SCRD wants to be viewed in a favorable light, perhaps the long-term plan should be decided on and the short-term actions required and implemented. So far, neither has met to the satisfaction of the taxpayers. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our comment. And I believe Jeff may have some further comments. Jeff, if you'd like to.
Would you like me to comment now, or do you have some questions?
Well, I know we'll open it up for questions, but we'd like to, because we wanted to make sure that this was very conversational in nature, because I do know that in our conversations, Joff, that was part of your concern, as you wanted to make sure it was very, that we were able to have a dialogue. So you or Carl, you're more than welcome to make any comments now, and then I'll open it up to the board and because we do have some other information that's, but I'm happy to listen to any other questions first, but there'll be lots of chance for time to talk, so.
Sure, I have a few comments here. My name is Joff Bedford. I reside at 6208 Oracle Road in Seashelt. And my comments are as follows. Comedian Bill Murray said, "Common sense is like deodorant. The people that need it the worst seldom use it." Now, I think what's happened is common sense has gone out the window because people get caught up in the details. So to simplify things, based on the Associated Environmental, based on their report, they said the Dusty Road well, or not the Dusty Road, the Church Road well is capable of solving 40% of the water deficit problem. And that's been mentioned in the paper several times and at meetings. Now, that same report says that Dusty Road is twice as prolific as Church Road. So if Church Road can do 40%, by definition, Dusty Road can do 80% plus. So 80% plus 40% is 120% of a water deficit problem. And we haven't even begun to talk about other contributions from Langdale Well, Marianne West, Gray Creek, modification to the environmental flow, which retired engineer Tom Beck has talked about to his exhaustion. He's done that free of charge, by the way. The Water Resources Center can contribute 2 million liters a day. Leak detection is going to contribute a significant amount, although that's hard to pin down.
And it's short term.
So all these things, all these water sources are available just to solve a 4-month problem. We have more than enough water available. We just have to implement it. You people just have to implement it. So a special thanks to the Wasatch Committee for protecting taxpayer dollars and discouraging the SCRD from pursuing the raw water reservoir, which would have been a horrible waste of taxpayer dollars. One other comment, we do make note that Director Toth saw the flaw in the recommendation not to proceed with Dusty Road and has brought that up. I don't know where that has gone, but it's a very valid comment and exactly the same thing we're saying. The recommendation not to proceed with Dusty Road is a faulty recommendation. That's all I have to say.
Sorry, Carl, do you have anything that you'd like to add as well?
At this point, no. Everybody's gone over the points that are in discussion. I may have something to add in a few minutes.
Okay. There's a couple of things that we do have some new information that has come up, actually even late yesterday, earlier today, and it was reported on at their infrastructure committee earlier today during our water supply update that Church Road has been signed off on by the Squamish Nation. So that puts us a significant step further towards getting licensing because we're confident in the licensing process. So it's we're hoping that that'll go out to tender here shortly. I wanted to clarify that this board has demanded, and I myself has sat in front of Minister Donaldson in September of 2019, demanding that Church Road, any water licensing that came forward from the regional district be looked at in an expedient manner. And we were promised at that time that it would be looked at as a health and safety issue for the Sunshine Coast as a whole. So it was not until August 2021 that anything was made. We demanded right from the get-go that anything going forward would be looked at in an expedient manner. Unfortunately, as we've heard from the ministries, the application for Church Road was very complicated. The application for if we were to look at doing Dusty Road would be even further complicated. And I'm wondering, GM Rosenboom, if you could bring up, do you have the slides handy for Dusty Road that you showed earlier today at infrastructure?
Yes, I have, Chair Brad, and with your permission, I can share them. Then we can go over them and okay. Can see my slides?
Yes, we can, Remco. Oh, it's, of course, it's right on the cross of the, there we are. Okay, so this is the, I'll turn it over to Remco here in just a second, but this is the Dusty Road well field siting, and GM Rosenboom, over to you to just explain the mapping on the first one, and then some of the challenges with this site.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. So, to the delegation, I provided these two slides this morning at the Infrastructure Services Committee meeting as a refresher to the committee and the directors on the situation around Dusty Road, and I'm more than happy to present it here as well. So I agree with, based on the assessment in 2018, based on the test well site, Dusty Road, there is a substantial sustainable yield potential at the site. No question about that. It is a highly effective site to develop. The actual development costs in 2018 were totaling towards $2 million, including engineering and staff time, etc., and additional expenditures. However, we would have to determine what it is in current value, because things have become a lot more expensive since 2018, especially in the engineering field. So what the map depicts is the well site. I hope you can see my pointer. Yeah. Okay. The well site, and the red line is the recharge zone within 20 years. So if a drop of water falls within the watershed here, within 20 years, it's at the well site. This cone, the shape was developed by modeling based on the available data by the consultant, and is included in the report you just referenced as well from a consultant. As you can see, that a significant amount of the area is overlapping with what is currently already the gravel extraction location, and the majority of the area that's currently not being mined yet is slated to be mined in the years to come as well. And the existing area, including this area and this area, is actually currently being logged, and I expect mining to occur there in the nearby future as well. The gray area, these two areas are transferred to the nation. They used to be Crown land, and they were transferred to the nation last year, and they're slated to be mined in the future as well. So what you can see is that a large part of the current recharge area is within the area that's currently being mined or is expected to be mined in the near future. What you also can see is that it overlaps with Chapman Creek. So what it results in is that if there would be a significant extraction here from a well, it could result in Chapman Creek water being drawn into the aquifer instead of flowing towards the treatment plant and the lower reaches of Chapman Creek. What it would result in is that we would have to release more water from Chapman Lake or Edwards Lake to augment the flows to make sure that we meet our EFN. The impacts of the mining operations itself will be such that it is very likely that the recharge itself will reduce over time because the landscape will change. As a co-worker of me always once said it, we used to build the Chapman treatment plant on the slope of a mountain, and now we're on the top of the hill. And that's to be expected in some of the areas as well. And that's what we're already seeing in terms of the gravel extraction. So in terms of next steps, or next slide, some technical consideration. I already indicated the risk that if a well were to be developed on that site, a production well, we could actually draw from Chapman Creek, which only would force us to release more water from Chapman or Edwards Lake. It's very likely that the aquifer recharge rate is reduced as a result of the gravel extraction. And I concur with what you were just referring to in terms of the Mines Act. The Mines Act does protect any existing water rights. So if you have a water license in an area for a diversion, then the Mines Act assures that any future permits will not have any impact on the water diversion. In this case, we don't have a well there, so any mine permits that are currently being issued for the quarry are not contemplating the potential use of the aquifer for water supply to the community. The third part is, and I agree that the risk is low, and I had follow-up conversations about that as well, is that the risk for actual contamination by the gravel extraction, because it is an industrial activity, or the she-shelf landfill is low. However, it cannot be excluded that those activities, commercial industrial activities, or the she-shelf landfill over time could have an impact. Procedural. As per the foundation agreement that was signed in 2018, there's a shared decision-making model in place for water sustainability applications. So any water license in this area does not only require the approval by the Ministry of Clean Water, but also by the She-Shelf Nation. To date, I have not been able to obtain support from the nation for the development of a well at this location. I think it was discussed earlier, there's a substantial provincial backlog for processing of any type of water applications. It's close to 3 years, 2.5-3 years at the moment. And advancing this site as a potential well will, of course, because our workload is pretty full, it's overflowing at the moment, will definitely impact our progress on those water supply and conservation efforts. And currently we don't have a budget or a funding source available to actually initiate the development. In terms of outside of the scope of Dusty Road, I would like to make one remark with respect to the benefit of the metering installations. Leaks, it's proven that leaks are not a one-time fix. Leaks are being sprung every day of the year, ongoing. And every time that 50 leaks are being resolved, 50 or 40 new leaks are being found the next time we do our meter reads. So the water meters will not only identify and will most likely, once they're in place, identify a lot of leaks that can be resolved in the near future, but will continue to be of benefit to make sure that our leaks will be identified on the long run as well. Okay, I pass it over here again, and more than happy to answer any questions from the delegation or from the directors. Thank you.
Okay, I had something that popped into my head and then I lost it again, so I'll go back to the delegation first to see if you have any questions, Mr.
Yeah,
Hoffman.
I wonder if I could ask Remco to put that last slide back up again for a
Okay.
minute?
GM Rosenboom, if you could.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Good, thank you. First of all, with respect to the Mining Act, there are three different potential categories that could protect this, because first of all, it does ensure that mining cannot interfere with the quality or quantity of existing water reserves. And this was further confirmed in a letter that was published this last week in the Coast Reporter. And I didn't bring it with me, but it stated that the provincial government stands behind anything that will interfere with any intake of water or output of water and guaranteed quality of water above and beyond any acknowledged, it was for the certification of parks areas, something to that effect. So the provincial government is supposedly very protective of water. The second thing is, when you say that under your second point, very likely the aquifer recharge rate is decreasing due to significant current and future gravel extraction in a particular area. Do you know that? I mean, at the present time, we don't. Drilling a well will probably be significantly cheaper than the, I think you said $1 million or several millions in the last page, in the previous page you showed. And that is not the information that we're getting from private sources of drilling a well with using a 10-inch casing and finding out what's down there and potentially going through that second layer or into the second aquifer. In terms of the procedural considerations, provincial backlog for processing applications, I don't buy that. First of all, to the chair, you said in September 2019 you created an awareness, and they said, oh yeah, we're going to look at it. Well, in 2021 of August was the next time that you wrote a report for that, or a letter to that, directing, saying, get off your ass. That's essentially what you said. And you know, to let 2 years or...
And it wasn't 2 years, and I am sorry for interrupting you, but I am going to take great offense at this, because it is not. I sat in front of a minister, face-to-face with a minister, closer than what you and I are right now, and explained our situation with our MLA in the room and several other members of the elected, as well as staff from the Sunshine Coast. And I explained and was promised by the minister, Minister Donaldson, at that time. It is not the only time. That was the first time we had a face-to-face meeting. That we had also had previous, I've met him face-to-face at the Kofi Convention to put forward a couple of other things that are going on also with us at the regional district, but it was not the last time. He has been informed. We've had other letters. We've had phone calls. Our staff have gone back and forth with him. So I do take offense at you saying that the first time was in August of 2021. It was not the first time.
No,
And it will not be the last time until this license has been approved and that well is on site.
my reference to getting off your butt was not to you, it was to the government. And you indicated that in September 2019, you wrote a letter, and then the next time was in August of 2021. Now,
September of 2019 was a face-to-face meeting at the
Okay.
Union of BC
Yeah.
Municipalities. We also we've had several phone calls, we've had other staff to staff, which is, when it comes down to this level, it's very operational in nature, and it has to go staff to staff. It doesn't go elected to elected. The
Yeah, okay.
advocacy standpoint goes elected to elected. Our MLA, I'm not going to speak for our MLA, but our MLA is well aware of the situation, and so I can't comment on his advocacy. I do know that he has been doing what he can on his end. I don't know, I'm not going to speak for him any further.
Yeah.
We do meet with him very regularly and have been throughout the entire COVID situation. We've been meeting on Zoom. The mayor's chief, Paul, myself, our MLA, and our MP. So for the last 18 months-ish, we've been meeting on a very regular basis, and they've been been apprised of the water situation because it's been constant even throughout the winter. So just because not everything is being reported out does not mean that the advocacy is not happening in the background.
Okay. My comment would be to the chair that there's a difference between can do and will do as far as the MLA is concerned. And it's, I'm just trying to say that on behalf of taxpayers, as concerned that it's been an ongoing situation for a long time. Do we look at another 20 years before something has finally actually happened? I mean, there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of talk, but I still firmly believe that unless you take government to task on a regular and ongoing basis and get some results happening, that talk is cheap. And you know, I don't think that Victoria is appreciative of the situation here on the coast when we're saving water from showers to water our plants or our fruit trees or whatever have you. Mm-hmm. It's just, I just don't believe that they understand that. And it's evidenced by some of the people that I've spoken with. What, you have a water problem there? So all we're saying is that, look, it's time that we took the gloves off and got after the provincial government. And to say that they're in backlog, I don't care if they're in backlog. This is a priority situation. Sure, right now it's raining out, but it isn't in the summertime. So get off your butts and do something about it. And unless we give them that kind of language and take them to task for it, they're going to keep saying, oh, well, maybe we'll do it again. Maybe we'll look at it next time. Yada, yada, yada. And I know that that's the way the government operates.
And I understand the frustration, and I will say that any additional community support that we can get behind these efforts are always welcome. But we need to work together as a community and have the same messaging going forward. The pressure on the province with several media interviews that we've done in this year has certainly definitely ramped up the
Absolutely.
and which was needed to have happen. So I have my CAO wanted to make a comment here, so I'll put it over to Dean.
Yeah, thank you very much, and
Yeah.
Appreciate the presentation from the delegation today as well. The only comment I wanted to make is around holding the province's feet to the fire or telling them to get off their butts. At the end of the day, these decisions are made, the licensing decision is made by senior bureaucrats at the province. Even if a minister or the MLA wanted to, they could not go into this person's office and demand that the license be issued. That would be illegal. It is not something that the politicians are able to do. They can try to influence, they can try to advocate, but at the end of the day, these are decisions made by senior officials. And in leading to that decision, there was a tremendous amount of technical information that had to be exchanged, a lot of back and forth, a lot of information to be poured through by the Squamish Nation, by the province, working closely with staff from the Sunshine Coast Regional District, the town of Gibsons. And while The situation had a tremendous amount of urgency for us. It's also one of many files that the Squamish Nation is working on. It's one of many files that the province is working on, and they recognize that this was a highly complicated file for them. We wish it hadn't taken so long, but the only way forward when you're dealing with these is through relationship building and collaboration. And we appreciate the building relationship we're having with the Squamish Nation. We appreciate that the province was listening to the urgency we were expressing. We appreciate that the town of Gibsons was working with us as positively as they were and have been and will continue to be. And we appreciate the advocacy of many of our residents and the board. Everyone doing their role to try to highlight how important this was, but this was not something that we could solve through making demands. We had to solve it through building relationships. Thank you.
Thank you, CAO. I saw a couple of the directors had their hands up and have since put them down, so I just will go back. So Director Ties?
Yeah, thank you. I know Remco has already mentioned it, but I just want to give a real world example. In April, my property did not have a leak. In May, I was notified that I had a leak and it was leaking about 1,000 liters a day. I had no idea. And $3,000 later, I have now rectified that leak. And that's just one tiny example of all what water meters can do. It holds every single property owner to account to make sure that their property is leak-free. And yes, they spring up all day, every day, as Remco said. So to say that it's a temporary measure is absolutely false. It is an ongoing, necessary item that we do need, and that's why it's best practice around the world. And water is only going to become more precious as time goes on.
I had Director Beamish and then Director Seegers.
Yeah, I took my hand down, thank you. I just going to go to point of order. We seem to be debating with the delegation and becoming repetitive, but I understand where you are. I'm not part of this function. I'm concerned with the other business of the board at this time as well. Thank you.
Director Seegers.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm going to do this electronic stuff here first. There we go. Okay, that hand's down. Okay, so I want to address this article that you put out. Some of the facts that you've indicated on there are not actual facts. They're actually your opinions. And that's fine, but they are put forward as facts. So I'm not going to go through them in detail. I can do that with you offline. What it did do was we actually had a lot of emails come through saying, drill Dusty Road. And Chair Pratt and I spent a lot of time responding to those and making sure they had the information. As your comment about the poll in the Coast Reporter had a high percentage saying, drill Dusty Road, we are finding that even though we're putting out information constantly on all of the programs and the projects that we're doing around water, there are a lot of people out there who have no idea what we're doing. So you did raise the profile and have more people come forward, so I thank you for that. Couple of things I want to talk about was the $2 million for the infrastructure. Yes, the well will not cost $2 million. We know that. It's not going to cost $2 million, but we have to hook that into our water system. And that's where a lot of the cost comes for all of the work that has to be done to put that infrastructure in place so we can actually use that water. So, and those costs have gone up. Particularly around the mine site over there, if we were to do Dusty Road, we have to work with the mining company because they are in the process of putting their plans together for their next 50-year mining plan. That's in process right now. It'll be presented, I understand, to the Sechelt Nation in the next short while. So those are a couple of things. The Water Supply Advisory Committee has been a huge resource to our staff and to this board. All of the projects that we had on the books, we actually took it to them. We took all of the projects, including Clahome. And recently, they came back to us and said, don't do Clahome now. It's not time for that. These other projects that you have in the works are the direction to go. We fully support what you're doing. So you've been talking about them and their expertise. We actually set up that committee to be able to have access to that expertise. I would suggest you go and talk to them about the direction we're going, because they are fully in support of where we're going and what we're doing. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your presentation.
Yes, Joff, go ahead.
I'm just going to go back a bit and respond to GM Rosenboom's comments or his presentation. He talked about the recharge rate of the aquifer being impacted by the mining. I can't see that happening unless the rain stops falling every winter. By law, the mine is not allowed to change the course or the quality of the water of the aquifer, at least 3 different acts. So I can't see that being an issue. Contamination, there was mentioned contamination of the aquifer by the mining activity. That also is not allowed by law, these same statutes. And it seems somewhat bizarre to me that there's no budget for Dusty when it happens to be probably the cheapest option of water supply available. It does not make sense. There's no common sense there as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll address the financing piece. It has not been budgeted. So as we've been going forward with all of these projects in the regional district, we have to tax and collect the money for every particular service function that we're doing. So as we've gone forward and made these plans, we then, in our budget, put forward the budget requests, which then we tax and collect the money to make happen. We have not budgeted and requested tax money from the residents on the Sunshine Coast. So we cannot take money that we've collected for other items to use to build that. So that's when he's talking about it hasn't been budgeted, it hasn't been budgeted. There is no money that has been collected for that specific item.
I understand the budgeting process, but I think the SCRD has been sidetracked or deflected away from Dusty Road for a couple of 2 to 3 years now, and that should not have happened. It should be again back on the table under very active consideration. And the cost to connect Dusty to the municipal water system should be absolutely minimal, because the water main is right there on the same property, and so is power. So the cost should be just a bare minimum.
It still has to go up to the water treatment plant and yeah, or chlorination, yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be treated at the water treatment plant. Most of the groundwater, as evidenced by Gibson's groundwater, is so pure that it could be treated right at the wellhead. Just a slight chlorination, and then it can go right into the system without going to the water treatment plant.
GM Rosenboom?
Thank you very much for the opportunity to respond to the infrastructure needs. It's indeed correct that this water does not will not need to go to the treatment plant itself. It would need to be chlorinated at the location of the well. There will need to be a small water treatment facility constructed there, and as well as the water mains. The water main on Dusty Road would need to be upsized significantly to ensure sufficient chlorination time and flow capacity. And the actual drilling of the well, I agree, it was in 2018 estimated at about $200,000. But that does not include everything else that's all the additional infrastructure associated with that, as well as the engineering and the permitting, and or any additional monitoring that might be required in support of any permitting. So that's the other costs that can be considered, and all that information is available in Appendix J of the report you just referenced. Thank you.
Director Toth?
Thank you, Chair. One thing, you mentioned me, and happy to continue conversations around water options and water sources. I do continue to ask our staff questions about Dusty Road. Even this morning, I asked, why did we drill that well if it could have been a source of contamination upstream of it? There's a couple of things that I've been sort of reflecting on since I asked the question. And that's the foundation agreement came out in late 2018. The SCRD and the municipalities were not a party to that negotiation that happened. So when you think about the upstream lands, until late 2018, they weren't identified as gravel lands to be transferred to the nation, at least not publicly. So it made sense because at the time, it's all forest uphill. So, why not drill in that location based on the desktop study anyways? The other thing is that with the Water Sustainability Act and the new shared decision-making table between the province and the Seashelt Nation, the Seashelt Nation has to agree to all water licensing applications that come through. And we've been told they're not interested. They're not going to sign off on anything at Dusty Road. So why, how far down that path do we go where they're just going to turn around and say no?
Just to be clear on that, could you repeat that? Did I understand you to say the First Nations will not sign off on a Dusty Road proposition?
It's been indicated that they will not sign off on that because they plan to do gravel extraction above it. And it might be illegal to contaminate an aquifer and to breach an aquifer, but whether it's illegal or not, it can still happen. It's illegal to breach an aquifer, yet Gibson's has spent how many years with the George development because everybody's sure they're going to breach that aquifer. And the law doesn't matter if it happens. There was an aquifer breach in Vancouver that took over 2 years to seal down on West 4th.
Yes, in that case, ultimately, someone's going to be responsible for that and have to cover the costs, I presume. Do you have anything in writing from the Seashell Nation saying that they would oppose the development of Dusty Road, considering it's on District to Seashell land?
I believe it is. I don't have anything in writing. I can't speak for the rest of the organization in particular.
GM Rosenboom, please.
Thank you. I've had discussions with senior staff at the Nation, and they indicated that at their level, which is at senior staff level, they were not interested in advancing a production well at this location. And that's a verbal remark. Thank you.
That being the case, and if you...
Oh, we need the, yeah.
That being the case, and if you were to not proceed for that reason, I think you should make that public. They need water just as much as we do.
Len?
Thank you, Chair. I'm a relatively impartial observer, seeing that I'm in Pender Harbor. And I get to vote because Egmont and Ruby Lake are in the regional water. In other words, they pay the same as everybody else for the water, even though their sources are different. When I saw Dusty Road, I thought, boy, that's going to be really great. But when you get into it and you start weighing the risk, and if you're putting all your eggs in a basket and it don't turn out, you just dig a bigger hole that you got to try and get out of. And to me, it became a risk reward. So when I put in my mind, actually on paper, all of the proposed, they appeared to be birds in the hand versus birds in the woods. In other words, they've got a set time, they've got a set price, they will deliver. Does that happen? I don't know. but under the plan they will. With Dusty Road, there's nothing for sure. I've been watching mines for a long time, and I don't think there is a mine that don't impact water. They dig a great big hole in the ground. It's going to impact the watershed. But the government wants to mine. So they'll say one thing and do another. And that's just me. I don't know that to be true, but that's just how I use common sense at it because I've watched it so much. Same with logging. They'll log in a watershed because the logs are there. They'll log right to the lake and find a good reason to. And unless we as residents speak up and say no, but they still log in the watershed. They're logging in the watershed up in Pender right now. So I think, to me, we need to take the bird in the hand. And yeah, we're being conservative, and yeah, we're not gambling. I don't think we can afford to gamble anymore because, like you say, this thing's 20 years old. And if we gamble and miss like we did at Chapman Lake, we should have raised Chapman Lake. We should have dropped the pipe down further. We didn't because we missed. Great plan, but we missed. And we missed because of government. They led us astray. They worked with our staff. They developed the plans. And then we said, okay, we're going to go now. We got the money. Let's go. They said, no, you aren't. We changed our mind. We can't afford that because we need to get the water. So I'm using my common sense and supporting the plan that we got. If it was my money, I might take a chance on Dusty Road, but it's not my money, and I'm a bit of a gambler. And I think that we all struggle. We all really struggle. We struggled with Dusty Road, and we've made a decision, and we keep second-guessing ourselves. And so I really like your presentation. It's good, and it forces us to rethink. I wish you'd come earlier and helped us think this through. There's good things here. Anyways, that's my 2 bits, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Lee. Mr. Bedford?
In response to Director Lee, development of Dusty Road would be a diversification from the Chapman system. It would give you 2 sources, and it's a fabulous well. In other words, Chapman Lake is a lake that surface water that you're drawing your water from. Dusty Road, you're drawing water from the aquifer, from aquifer 566, I believe, and there's probably another aquifer below that, 564. Yeah. So I don't see your hesitance there or your reluctance to encourage the development of Dusty Road. It would diversify our water supply and not be totally dependent or almost totally dependent on Chapman Lake. In regards to Chapman Lake, past history, I think the better move would have been to increase the level of Chapman Lake as per the Dayton and Knight report. That would have provided a lot more water and would have been ecologically better for the lake, and the increase in footprint would be very small. Thank you.
Director Lee?
Yeah, I just do have a question of our GM, Remco. I understand that the Dusty Road is part of the watershed, and I believe it's actually Edwards rather than Chapman, but Edwards is a source of our water as well. All a lake is water that in the watershed that's come to the surface as opposed to going down through the dirt. It's just slower that way. So diversifying, no, it's the source of the watershed's all the same. It comes from the mountains. Some pops up earlier than others. And so our diversification that the plan has right now, the Langdale and the other well there, I forget the name, Church Road, are similar to what you say as Dusty Road. They are diversification in that they're groundwater instead of surface water, but it is diversification. I would like to think we could go back to Chapman and raise the dam, but that was by far, I agree with you, that was by far the best plan. And it was immediate water and cheap water. And I've had discussions with Remco and Dean about what's the most economic or most environmentally friendly ones, because I tend to think surface water you can see, groundwater you can't. You're not sure what you're doing. What you're doing with groundwater don't pop up until 10 years later when you find you're in trouble. So, but that's my thoughts, and I think we're making the right decision, even though we continue to second guess ourselves.
Remco, Jim Rosenboom, I know that you're unmuted. Did you have a comment or?
The only remark I want to make is, yes, raising the damage Chapman, or lowering the intake by deepening the channel. They're all items that require the same approval by the minister, and anything we do there requires the same. Any major improvements require the same approval by the minister. And the current minister, several years ago in 2019, said no to the park amendment to allow any of that to proceed. So I don't see any options to, at this point in time, to even reinvent that discussion with BC Parks and the minister. And I think it will be a similar process. You can put a lot of time and effort in it, and I think the likelihood of succeeding will be low. While we currently have very good chance on Langdale, very good chance in upgrading our treatment capacity at Great Creek, and as indicated earlier by Chair Pratt, we are moving forward with the construction of Church Road. So I think the diversification we have as a result of that in our supply, in combination with the anticipated benefit of the metering program, will address our water supply deficit that we currently see, that we currently have in several years. Yes, it's several years out, but the plan we have now in place allows for diversification and addresses the need of the community long term. So, yes, there is always a benefit of additional supply in terms of redundancy, and we will continue to look for that to see where that's possible in a risk, not too risky manner, because it's all about how much time and money do you want to invest, and what is the chance that you actually succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, GM Rosenboom. Mr. Hoffman, and then I'll go to Director Hiltz.
Thank you. In response to your comments, General Manager Rosenboom, it would seem then that you've got Church Road, Langdale, and Great Creek. And when I add that up, projecting it to 2025, I end up with approximately 8,500 cubic meters per day. And that is not sufficient to meet the norm of 11,000. So 8,500, you're still short. So I would not call that a long-term solution at all. That is only short-term solution. When I'm talking long-term, I'm thinking, if you look at Winnipeg, for example, when they built a 175-mile aqueduct into the city of Winnipeg from Shoal Lake during the 1930s, that is still satisfying Winnipeg today. That is long-term thinking. If you want to cut off any development in this area and prohibit any further use of water access, then you've got a long-term solution. Other than that, this is only a short-term solution, and you're still going to be shy if we come into drought situations in successive years.
Go ahead.
Chairman?
Yep.
Thank you. I would like to, outside of this meeting, compare the numbers, because in combination with exchange numbers by email, because as later this year we'll do a water supply discussions with the community about the status of all the projects, and as part of those presentations we'll indicate how we end up at meeting our water supply in 2025. And later this year and early next year we'll also start working on our long-term water supply plans, and will be public participation around that. So all the discussions about how do we meet the demand for 2030, 2035, 2040, those discussions will happen. And sorry, it's indicated earlier by some of the directors. Options like Clohome, connecting to Sakana, Rainy River, and the Royal Weather Reservoir will all be contemplated as part of the long-term water supply plans that are going to be developed in the years to come, to make sure that we not only meet the demand of 2025, which I agree is a short term, but also prepare for the future and that we don't have the next generation of elected and senior officials being in the same situation as we're in right now, because I think nobody wants that. And I think we're all in agreement with your remarks that this is not where we want to be at this point in time. Thank you.
Director Hiltz?
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for coming and the discussion. It's I've had some conversations with individuals. I want to just talk about common sense maybe a little bit. That for me, in my role as an elected person, common sense does not rely only with me. I share common sense with all these other people and the expertise of the staff. And so, as Director Lee said, I think the plan is a good plan. And the plan started well into 2011, right, with the Comprehensive Regional Water Plan, and those things are moving forward. And there is a vision of stage 2 for everyone. So I'm only one part of the common sense. So, and I think as GM Rosenboom has said that as the community understands, we will come to what a common sense decision is for the whole community. And I think we're going there. I feel more confident now than I was in 2015. If you remember the first severe drought where everyone was pitching together, that was a very difficult year. And this year with communications and all sorts of things, the community pitched in again. But aside from Dusty Road, if I may ask a question about one of the things on your folder, and it was a phrase that really caught my attention, was forced conservation. And I'm wondering how you view the role of conservation as a collective of the community versus individual use. Water is a collective ownership, right? We're licensed by the government. It's a gift from the sky. And the role of the individual versus the collective. And I'm just, what is forced conservation? I don't understand what you mean by. For me, I feel it's a value that I hold to use resources responsibly, not take more than what I should, right? Don't go for a second helping when I don't need to or someone else needs some. So I'm just wondering what forced conservation means to the post group. It's on the back page, just above the black line there.
Okay.
And it says forced why am I having such a problem with it? Conservation with.
Says it's time for our present SCRD board stop burdening us with hefty tax increases and long-term AA loans based on promises that will not be delivered for years. Forced conservation with water restrictions needs to be balanced with water added to our system to avoid another 2018 water declared crisis.
Forced conservation would be water meters.
And the forcing, I don't know who is
Well,
forcing.
with water meters, you are basically saying we're not adding water, we're just trying to protect the water that we have by imposing a certain restriction. And we're saying that when we say forced conservation, water meters are the example. It's conserving water, but it's being forced upon us. The whole business of water meters going back a couple of years, clearly it was defeated. Clearly, Seashell was not happy with that response. Clearly, they put out a second time and they went in what is in effect negative politics by saying, you have to vote no because I'm saying it's yes. And the approval process did go through because finally people are saying, I'm giving up on this. I'm not going to do another LLP program and go through all of the hassle again. How many times do we have to say no before you're heard? If the powers that be say, this is going to happen regardless of what you think, that's forced conservation.
So what do you feel is our responsibility as individuals to conserve this resource? How do we communicate that to the community of our individual responsibility to conserve a limited resource when we're all desperately needing it?
Well, unless you can demonstrate otherwise, I firmly believe that water meters are a short-term solution in terms of the cost of $7.25 million. Water meters, for the installation of water meters, certainly will detect leaks and so on and so forth. The fact that new leaks are springing up on a weekly basis, as mentioned in this meeting, is news to me. To my way of thinking, if you fix a leak, it's repaired. It should be repaired properly. I don't understand in an area that does not have frost upheavals and 4-foot down levels of freezing, why you're getting so many breaks in your water lines. I mean, to me, it's inconceivable. But anyway, I'm from Winnipeg originally, so there you go.
I guess the way I think of it is like arterial sclerosis in stints, right? You know, you fix one place, next thing you know, it's popping out of the other place, and that's what water does. Pressure changes. And so, yeah, I worked in the water industry, and chasing water leaks is a difficult thing. You pop one thing out here, it pops out there, the weakest link in the chain. So that's my understanding of why, because water responds to pressure, and things age, the time and settling. So yeah, there is continuous water leaks occurring. There's never going to be a 100% tight water system.
Is it worth $7.25 million?
In my common sense opinion, based on the plan that we have, yeah, I'm subscribing to that, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Directors, staff, any further questions or comments for our delegation? Any further questions or comments for us at this time? Oh.
Yeah, I had a question for Remco.
Yeah, is that, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, Remco, I'd like to know, given the recent developments on Church Road, how soon will you be able to start building the infrastructure and getting that Church Road connected to the Chapman system? Is this going to be a 6-month, 12-month effort, or how soon can you see it done?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Chair, if I may. We are expecting to issue the tender for the construction very soon, in upcoming days, at least within a week. And of course, the tender is quite substantial, so we need to provide any interested contractors sufficient time to prepare a response and get it awarded and approved by the board. We hope to get that award in place in December of this year. And if all things go as we would hope they go, we hope that we can find a contractor that can start in January. We're expecting construction time of up to 8 months, whereas the longest time will be in terms of construction will be required for the water main part along Elphinstone and Reed Road. However, the longest lead time is actually the fabrication of the pumps and the electronics required to actually get the water from Elphinstone Road to the Reedford pump station. That's all custom fabricated, and that can take has a lead time of easily 5-6 months. So what we've done is our tender will include a bonus for if a contractor can be done early. The earlier they're finished with the project, the bigger the bonus they can receive. And that we really see that as an incentive for early completion, so that instead of a completion date early September, we might get it online early October. And I can say that because we have the confirmation from, for example, Vancouver Coastal Health, that they will do everything that's within their power to support us to get us online as soon as possible. And that's the same from Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. We have them ready to support us where needed to expedite the construction. Does it provide an answer to your question?
Yes, it does. Just that brings another question is, how do you see the timing for getting the license in hand so that you can start the construction? Are there any other stones on the road here that we don't foresee that will hamper getting that license?
We'll see what the province lobs at us, but we hope not. But maybe GM Rosenboom can better answer that.
Based on my very recent conversations with the actual people that are making the decisions on this file, they are confident that there are some small wrinkles to work through, but we don't foresee any issues in receiving the license in upcoming weeks. And we expect to have that in hand prior to the award of the construction contract in December. Thank you.
And GM Rosenboom, you meant early August, not early October, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Early. So instead of early September, having the project completed early August. Sorry. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And then there was one other term that we have been using that we haven't explained, and it was EFN, and that's environmental flow needs, which is a requirement that the regional district has to release a certain amount of water down Chapman Creek for fish flow, or I say for fish flows, but there's a certain amount of water that needs to be released down Chapman, even when we're in our driest water conditions. CAO McKinley, if you want to speak more to that.
Yeah, for example, even when we were in stage 4 prior to the long weekend, when we were still trying to get down from, say, 11,200 cubic meters a day used by residents down to 10,000, every one of those days and every day since then, we have to release 17,200 cubic meters for environmental flow needs. And that number doesn't go down. That number stays the same.
And maybe I can provide an update to the board on the status of our project to update or to review that amount. The current we're currently aiming to submit our application for an amendment of the EFN to the province before the end of the year, and in anticipation to have it reviewed by them in the spring, and fingers crossed that we can receive a positive outcome of that prior to next year's summer season. Thank you.
Just a comment to Director Hiltz's comment or query on what forest conservation is. Water meters would be a form of forest conservation because you can do that by adjusting the rates upward, which would reduce consumption. But it's basically a tax on the poor because the people who can afford it the least are hit the heaviest financially. People who are well off, use of water is not a financial consideration. They use what they want. So just for the record as a comment.
It can be certainly taken as a generalization, that's possible. Director Ties, and then I'd like to get this, if we could wrap this up, please.
Yeah, I think we need to move on, but just as a quick comment, I don't understand the rationale behind it. It hits the poorest the most, considering that generally large landowners use the most water and will therefore be charged the most water. The people that live in small dwellings will actually pay the least because they don't use a lot of water. They don't have any yards. And so the people that actually make the least will also pay the least. But yes, I think we do need to move on. Thank you. Thank you for coming, and it's always good to have dialogue and to debate.
Director Toth?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to chime in with the water consumption piece. My household of 3, I've said it here before, we averaged less than 200 liters per day in our household during the summertime. When I look back at our consumption numbers, summer, spring, winter, doesn't seem to matter. We use about 200 liters per day in our household, unless we're pouring concrete or doing some pressure washing or something more substantive. When I talk to seniors who are living in apartments, on their own or in smaller homes, they're wondering why they're subsidizing people who are wasteful of water. And we see in our water updates, Pender Harbor uses an average of 1,400 liters per household per day. And, it's great that you guys have that water to waste, but I can't even fathom how a household uses that much water in a day. And to be honest, I don't want to subsidize you. And I think that meters are a good way for us to work towards that. So thank you. Thank you for being here today.
I'd like to say thank you to the SCRD board for making this meeting possible. A face-to-face interaction is much more productive than the other venues that are available. So thanks again.
And thank you very much for coming and having the conversation with us today, and talking through and being able to tell you about some of the good news that is coming up. So, because that is the Church Road piece is very new, so that's significant in moving that project forward. So, thank you all for coming.
You stay.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting too, if you'd like. It's so fun to actually have members of the public here. So, would everyone like just a quick 5-minute break, or? Okay, all right. Okay, so we will come back at 3:30. the Sunshine Coast Regional District regular board meeting of Thursday, October 14th, 2021. We will continue on to the next item on our agenda, which is our reports. And the first set of reports that we have on our amended agenda, Annex B, pages 7 through 10 of your package, is the Corporate and Administrative Services Committee recommendations, numbers 1 through 10, 12, 13, and 15 of September 23rd, 2021. Directors, are there any of these recommendations that you would like pulled out for separate debate before we adopt the rest as a whole, as a block? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt the Corporate and Administrative Services Committee recommendations of September 23rd, 2021, please. So moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, 5, the Special Corporate and Administrative Services Committee recommendations, numbers 1 through 6 of September 29th, 2021. Annex C, pages 11 through 14 of the package. Directors, would you like to pull out any of these recommendations to debate separately before we adopt them as a block? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt the recommendations of September 29th, 2021, please. So moved, Director McMahon, seconded, Director Seegers. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, 5A. This is the late item to our agenda, pages 14A to B of our package. The Infrastructure Services Committee recommendations numbers 1, 4, 5, and 7 of earlier today. Directors, would you like to debate any of these separately before we adopt them as a block? Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt the recommendations of October 14th, 2021, numbers 1, 4, 5, and 7. So moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Eyes have to go so many different places to make sure that you're catching everyone. Any discussion at all? Any discussion at all? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, we have our communications, Annex D, pages 15 to 16 of our package. Helga Groot, the chairperson of Pender Harbour Community School Society, October 5th, 2021, regarding the request for letter of support for the Community Learning Center building replacement project. Director Lee, was this the one? Yes, this, okay, so I'm going to put it over to Director Lee because I believe that you have a recommendation for us. Oh, we need your microphone on, please, sir.
I do, thank you, Chair. Yes, I do have one written. Before I make it, though, I would just like to point out how successful that they have been. They've raised $90,000, which is their 25% of the $358,000 for this project, and I'd like to congratulate them on that effort. That's a lot of money for a little community. So I do have a recommendation. I'll read it out here very quick. I think I have that the letter of the Pender Harbour Community School Society request for letter of support be received, but I think we did that at the very beginning. And so that a letter of support be written for the Pender Harbour Community School Society's grant application, Canadian Community Revitalization Fund, CCRF, for replacement of the Community Learning Centre building, and further that the SCRD support the proposed Community Learning Centre building replacement project. This new structure will benefit the Pender Harbour and Sunshine Coast communities with continued community outreach programs, educational, cultural, and recreational opportunities. And I believe that the SCRD recognizes the tremendous cultural, recreation, and community benefits to the small community of Pender Harbour and residents of the Sunshine Coast, and that we should include this letter in the application for grants funding for CCRF application number WD 0003075.
Excellent. And I am, of course, I do know that our recording secretary does have all of that information already. So she was furiously typing away, I'm sure, or copying and pasting. So thank you for that. And I see a seconder from Director McMahon. Who wants that reread? I don't know. Do we need that reread? Okay, is there any further, I would like to say that the Pender Harbor Community School Society does tremendous work in Pender Harbor, and yeah, it's fantastic, and I'm so glad to be able to provide my support to this as well, so.
Yes, there is other members of our community that go there for certain courses, like the gun safe and stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
So it's good for the coast.
It is a very good one for the coast. So with that, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, we had a letter from Greg Seafood dated October 5th, 2021, and it's regarding an invitation to Greg Seafood's first biannual operation update meeting. And I think this is just for information only, so, and if anyone would like to go to that, the information is within the letter there. So coming up next, we have no motions, but we do have a bylaw to be read, and we're looking for first, second, third reading and adoption at this meeting. Voting is all directors at 1 vote each. So this is Annex F, pages 19 to 21 of our package. So I am going to ask for a motion for first reading of Sunshine Coast Regional District Director's Remuneration Bylaw number 732, 2021. So move first reading, Director Seegers, seconded by Director McMahon. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Those opposed? And would you like that?
Yes, please.
Okay, Director Toth opposed. Okay, next up, I'm going to ask for a motion for second reading for Sunshine Coast Regional District Director's Remuneration Bylaw number 732, 2021. So moved second reading by Director Ties, seconded by Director Hiltz. Any further discussion? Director McMahon.
I'm very, very happy to see this on the agenda, and it will leave me with less to complain about.
Any further discussion? Yes, okay, Director Toth.
I, on the other hand, think it's a waste of time, but there we go, which is why I continue to oppose it. Yeah, I don't think we should be voting to do any of our own remuneration stuff. And yeah, I said it before, I'll say it again, and I'll keep voting opposed to this. So, thank you.
Okay, Director Hiltz, did you? What button to push? No. I have no.
Yeah, I'm just interested in Director Toth's, the waste of time. We haven't necessarily had that discussion, so.
Whatever, we've got more urgent things to deal with than our own remuneration. Water, garbage, sewer systems, just all of it.
Okay. Director McMahon?
I just want to point out that this is going to save a bunch of administrative time that can be best spent somewhere else.
If there's no further discussion, I'm going to call the question on second reading. All those in favor of second reading? Those opposed to second reading, Director Toth, and Director Toth would yes, like that
Yes, please.
was recorded, please. I'm going to ask for a motion for third reading of Sunshine Coast Regional District Director's Remuneration Bylaw number 732, 2021. So moved third reading, Director McMahon, seconded by Director Seegers. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to call the question on third reading. All those in favor? Thank you. Those opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Next up, I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt Sunshine Coast Regional District Director's Remuneration Bylaw number 732, 2021. So moved adoption by Director McMahon, seconded Director Seegers. Any further discussion? Director Seegers.
Thank you. I want to thank staff for all the work they put into this, and also to the members of the community that came forward. They put a lot of effort and time into doing the background checking, came forward with some very well thought out recommendations. So I just want to express our, appreciation for the work that they put in.
Thank you, Director Seekers, and I would echo those comments as well. There was an incredible amount of work, especially by our CAO and Executive Assistant Tracy Hinks and along with the Remuneration Committee. They took a really deep dive in looking at a number of different models and options and research, and along with additional support from our finance and and other corporate services team. So. Thank you for all of that. Seeing no further comments, I'm going to call the question on adoption. All those in favor? Thank you. Those opposed? Director Toth, and you would like that recorded?
Yes, please. And third reading too, even though you didn't ask.
Sorry, yes, and please make sure he's recorded for third reading as being opposed as well. I think that was yeah. Okay. All right, so with that, we're on to director's reports, and I will look for a volunteer to start. Director Lee, wow. Okay, Director Lee, you are up.
It's going to be short. I don't know how sweet. On September 28th, I attended and participated in Donna's Elder College course, and I must say I found it very refreshing, and I enjoyed all the questions, and it was good. I'm glad Donna decided to do that. It was great fun. So, and thanks for inviting me. And the last item that I thought worth mentioning here is that on September 29th, I attended the CAS and via a Zoom because I was traveling. And yet I felt like I fully participated. And I think I really appreciated the value of hybrid meetings in that case. And I think they're definitely a step forward. So where I was reluctant, I'm now a supporter. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Lee. Before we move on, I just would like to acknowledge the members of the Remuneration Review Committee from the public, Amanda List, Patricia York, and Silas White. And thank you all very much for your time. Okay, so who is up next? Andreas. Over to Director Ties, please.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few things to report. I was at the Roberts Creek Volunteer Fire Department open house. That was, I think, the weekend before this one. And during that time, a member of the senior planning table approached me and mentioned that we should have a vulnerable persons list for our next heat dome. And I thought that was a very good idea, and I urged her, I gave her Matt Trite's contact info and mine as well, but I haven't seen an email from her yet. So I thought I'd throw it out here now. Vulnerable persons contact list, just to make sure that those that are not able to be mobile or seek shelter or find cooling on their own, that they are taken care of. So that was one thing there from the open house, and of course it's always nice to go and chat with our volunteer firefighters and see what they're up to. Sunshine Coast Youth Action Advisory Council, chaired by Ted Chisholm. There was several organizations in that meeting. We're looking for staff, so the staff shortage also being reflected there. Some of the highlights there. Michael Mazer, an Elphinstone resident, is looking for 14 to 7-year-old students and is studying how students learn as part of his PhD thesis. And there's lots of things going on. If you're interested in the minutes, I can send those those to you. Kate Kerr is the new superintendent of School District 46. I think you probably already know that. And Camp Elphinstone is not running this fall. One of the reasons is they could not staff their food services. So once again, it's their staff shortage hitting home. So yeah, just a snippet of the things that were talked about. Indigenous Relations Committee last week. I was unable to attend, but I do have some things coming out of the agenda that I thoroughly read. Their budget for the Indigenous Relations Committee is more than is just about doubling this year to 1.38 million per year, with a 31.5% annual increase for the next 5 years, and that is to reflect some of the increased needs for consultation and engagement with the First Nations. Some of the 2022 operating budget includes key actions like bilateral engagement and negotiations with First Nations, support ongoing First Nations engagement efforts on capital construction projects such as the Northwest Langley Wastewater Treatment Plant upgrade and Iona Island Wastewater Treatment Plant upgrade and the Coquitlam Lake Water Supply Project. So Widgeon Marsh Regional Park and the Coquitlam Main Water Project. They're also developing, they also want to develop an archaeological management approach for Metro Vancouver, host a regional gathering involving members of the Indigenous Relations Committee, host an annual event, and host and participate in reconciliation activities. So there's lots of stuff going on next year, and that committee is gaining some momentum. An important BC Supreme Court case was decided on June 29th. It's Yahi versus British Columbia, and the court ruled against the province. The 511-page decision is lengthy and considers detailed evidence, including history, ethnography, wildlife, forestry, and land use planning within the Blueberry Nation territory, and it basically rules that that by authorizing the cumulative impacts of industrial development within the Blueberry Nation's territory, including roads, dams, transmission lines, and natural gas extraction, the province infringed on Blueberry's treaty rights. And that means that for the very first time, cumulative impact has been considered in front of the BC court, and apparently the province will not appeal this and will not take this to the Supreme Court. So this now means that cumulative impact of development can now be cited as a violation of treaty rights. Just something to keep in mind. And yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you, Director Ties. Up next, I have Director Toth.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a ton of items to report, but hopefully Director Seegers will catch what I miss. The Community Services Project in downtown Seashelt has received final adoption from Council, so they just need to continue working through their process for their new building. We've held a public hearing for the rental project being proposed for Ebbtide. Good turnout, no speakers, which I hope is favorable. I mean, certainly nobody seemed to be opposed to it. So looking forward to next steps as it winds its way through the process. The posting for a new communications manager for the District of Seashelt has closed. Interviews are currently underway. I'm not sure if we've got any sort of expected dates of final interviews are this week. Okay. I'm participating in Donna's course next week. And looking forward to it, even though I have no clue what to expect. I haven't watched any of it. I haven't talked to anybody that's been involved in it so far. So I don't know if there's anything I'm supposed to prepare. And then coming up October 26th, TELUS is hosting a public information meeting for their TELUS Living project on Inlet Avenue more rental housing in downtown Sechelt. So yeah, I think that's really all I have right now. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Director Toth. I have Director McMahon, and then Director Hiltz, and then Seekers.
Well, thanks, folks, for mentioning my Elder College course. It's been going really well. It required, of course, a great deal more work and research than I had really anticipated. And people keep lobbing questions at me that I have to think about. I'm still working on the question of what is the difference in terms of powers between a chair, a regional district chair, and a mayor. So that's an interesting one. I have one more course, it was a four-part course. There's one more part next week. So far, I just wanted to thank the speakers I've had so far. Jen McCutcheon, who is Area A of Metro Vancouver Regional District. Len, Darnelda, Laurie, Mark Gisborne from Cathet Regional District last week, and Sarah Fowler from the village of Tassus. And next week I'm looking forward to, I hope, Alton, and Lanny Gibson from the district of Kitimat, and Ramona Faust from Central Kootenay Regional District, if everybody is able to attend. I definitely want to do this course again, probably not in the Elder College format to make it more open to the half of the population here that's under 55. And also in a time slot that's a little more convenient for folks who work. I haven't an enormous amount to report. I didn't do a lot for active transportation weeks this year. I was out on my bike a few times. Oh, and I hiked up the mountain, but that's not really transportation. But I did go to the wrap-up party, because I never miss a good party, at the Gumboot Cafe, and Darnelda was there also. I attended Scredo's board meeting on Tuesday night. That was very interesting, but I don't actually have to report on it because Scredo is coming to us as a delegation very soon. And so I look forward to an update from them, and we'll be able to ask them all sorts of questions. Finally, I am delighted to report, based on my back-of-the-envelope calculations, that I have received a raise for my constituency work. Instead of $1 an hour, I'm now going to be paid $10 an hour. And yay, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And thank you so much for all of your work on Elder College. That was, it was a lot of fun, and I'm happy to participate in any future one that you do embark upon. Director Hiltz, please.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Start with just the constituency calls. People, it's jurisdictional issues between MODI, CAP highways, and the SCRD, between Islands Trust and SCRD, building versus land use planning, and services. Those are kind of questions that a few people are asking. Not much about garbage anymore. West Howe Sound Community Association this Tuesday had their first in-person meeting at Eric Cardinal Hall in 18 months. Socially distanced with vaccine passports, and about 15 people attending. So, and the presentation was on the Howe Sound Biosphere Reserve by Ruth Simons and Ian Wynn. The Holland Lands Committee, which I am appointed to now, was it yesterday? Yesterday, the town of Gibson's hosted a workshop for the Gibson's Library and staff and their board at High Beam Dreams in Lower Gibson's it was more or less a brainstorming session to understand their future needs, kind of from a 5 and a 25-year plan. And the next meeting for the Holland Lands Committee is October the 20th. The last piece would be Howe Sound Community Forum is next Friday, October 22nd on Bowen Island. So I'll be there in person, and I believe Director McMahon is going to come on the boat as well. So we'll be over there to see real people over on Bowen Island. So it's, yeah, I'm excited to go to Bowen. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to the report when you get back. Up next, Director Seegers.
Thank you. I like to have Director Toth go first. He can report on all kinds of things, and I don't have to have him on my list. What's going on? District of Sechelt, we are in our budget process. So we finished up last year's, or well, this year's, I guess, and then we went right into 2022. Our goal is to have our budget ready for adoption. You know, we'll have to wait for the regional district and et cetera, but having our portion done by the end of December or early January. And we're on target to do that right now. So the last couple of weeks have been community association meetings. So we're meeting with each of the community associations. They come with their wish list. I have to say, they really up the game, I'll tell you. We had one community association, they came with a list, a numbered list. Then they had a map where they highlighted every one of them on the map where it was in their community and gave that to us. So it was really, really good work. It's in previous years, counselors have not attended those meetings. It's typically been by staff. But what's happened is then by the time it comes to us and we're looking to deliberate on it, we might have a line item. And the line item really doesn't give all the information to have us make an informed decision. So counselors have stopped into, this meeting or that meeting, so we've got some more information. So that'll help when we come to the budget process. Active transportation weeks. I think I spoke about the bike ride that I did. I led off from Municipal Hall. Okay, it was a lot of fun. Turned out to be 16 people that came, and it was about 9 kilometers. Had a lot of fun with that. And I attended the 2 mornings that District of Sechelt had our tent. So it's counting how many people come by. I did not do as much bike riding as I intended. There was a lot of rain, and I have not yet purchased a raincoat. I've tried to find one, but I have not purchased a raincoat for on my bike. The only one I could find was black. I'm not getting that one. Okay. I've had a couple of sessions around healthcare over the last week or so. Improving patient discharge from Lionsgate Hospital. I had a situation a few years back where I had surgery here, ended up waking up in Lionsgate, got discharged from intensive care, and did not have any interaction with staff around how do I get back or follow-up care or whatever. So I had, it was an information session with them looking for how they can improve their service. So kudos to them for doing that. And the other one was with regards to rural surgical and obstetrical networks research. UBC, there is funding in the province that is coming to an end, and it was looking at how do you provide these services in rural communities. So they're looking now to put the case together as to why they should continue this funding provincially for the rural hospitals. So they came to me as the mayor of Sechelt. Why would I want these services in our community? So we talked about the various populations that we have. So if we have seniors who need emergency surgery, I'm not talking like heart, bypasses and those kinds of things, but emergency surgery, they fall, they break their leg, they need to be operated on now. We need to have as much as possible of that local so they don't have to go in. Also for young families, if they need to have a C-section, we need to be able to do that here. I was informed that if the mother is dilated beyond 4 centimeters, they cannot travel at all. So we need to have those services here to support our staff on the Sunshine Coast. It was about an hour interview, and we got into all kinds of other different things, but those were a few. RCMP Lower Mainland District Mayor's Forum. I'll just mention a couple of things from that. The union contract has been ratified for the RCMP. They have not had a contract since 2016, I believe it is. And so all the municipalities who pay into the RCMP or pay for RCMP have been told over the years to put aside about 2.5% each year for when this contract got settled. The average now that they've settled over these years is 3.6%. So they're going to be looking at having municipalities who don't have the funds to be able to pay over 2 years rather than have to do a huge increase in 1 year. Surrey has hired a few staff now. Surrey is the biggest RCMP detachment in the country, police detachment in the country. They have over 800 members. And so they are starting to hire, and they anticipate they'll have 50 hired by later this year. But there's still work being done about what are the impacts for other municipalities, other jurisdictions, because they are part of the integrated teams that we all pay into. They also pay into the offices, for example, down on the Lower Mainland. So, what does that look like? There's also then which staff members from various detachments are going to go to Surrey, and what does that do to other detachments? So there's lots of things to be worked out there. That'll be coming forward. Minister Osborne has started up the meetings again, the conference calls. We did Zoom or Teams this time, and it was President of UBCM with Lorianne Rudenberg. So she's talking about potentially having Minister Rankin with us. Rankin? Next month? Murr, yes. Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation, or vice versa. A couple other things, and then I'll stop. Cecil Arts Festival is on. I had the opportunity to open one of the events. There's a great couple of events coming up this weekend. Make sure you get by Seaside Center and check out what they've got there. Free to attend. The Davis Bay Wilson Creek Selma Park Community Association is offering afternoon teas. The first one is this Saturday, 3 sittings for the tea, 3 sittings each week, I believe. And it is to get some of the elderly people out of their homes who've been stuck in their homes because of COVID, to get them back out and socializing so we can start dealing with some of the isolation pieces. And also to find out, are there services that they need? Do they need home care? Do they need somebody to come and clean out their gutters? Like, what is needed now that they're actually starting to come out? So that's happening. It's free. Just have to pre-register so they make sure they have enough people there. There's lots more I could talk about, but that's enough. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Director Seegers. Yeah, that's. I had also attended the Lower Mainland Detachment meeting, and it's eye-opening on what impacts Surrey privatization, or I want to say privatization of their police force, but going to a municipal force from using the RCMP, what an impact it is going to have, not just within the Lower Mainland, but all of British Columbia and beyond, because it's an incredible number, and there were already some mayors commenting, we're already seeing an outflux of staffing. Yeah, 5 in North Van alone, and they're just starting the hiring process, so it's going to be significant, and we'll have to see how this continues to roll out, because it will have significant impacts on us as well moving forward. So I'll just comment on a couple of things. October, I think it was the 5th, was when Darnelda and I were at Elder College, and that was it was a great opinionated view of regional districts, and highly loved it. It was a lot of fun. It was a great. It was really so well done, Director McMahon, and just it was really enjoyable, and being able to have some candid conversations and some opinions about regional districts, because we have a few. So also, now because of that, my Rotary Club, actually, one of the things they asked me to do is, because one of the members of our Rotary Club was attending the Elder College the week before, and it's like, well, we should have Lori back on to talk about regional districts. So I got to talk about regional districts at my Rotary Club, and what we're doing here on the Sunshine Coast in regards to water and everything else. And of course, we went over, and I'm apparently going to get asked back and to speak more. But one of the interesting questions that has come up, of course, is the position of an alternate, and which of course is an issue across regional districts across the province, is that anomaly with an alternate that is appointed and not elected. Something that is upcoming on Monday, October the 18th from 7 to 9 p.m., the Half Moon Bay Community Association will be having their annual general meeting. And they have 3 guest speakers. They have myself as the director from the area. They also have our MLA and our MP. And so they'll be doing a Q&A, and they're very excited because it's a first for them to have all 3 of the elected. It's all via Zoom, so I'll provide the link. I'll send it out, and for anybody who wants to attend, it'll also be live streamed on Facebook, so it looks like a lot of fun. In a couple of weeks, on October 28th, that'll be our last meeting before Halloween. So would there be any interest in dressing up to the board? Something to think about?
I'll dress up as an underappreciated elected official.
That's a stretch. So, but I'll put that as a question to directors, and maybe if any, I know it's a few days before for staff will be working on the 31st. Well, no, the 31st will be on it's 31st is on a Sunday, so it's but it's our last board meeting before Halloween. So I'll just put it out there if anybody wants to, we can do a little dress up and trick or treating. Safe, socially, physically distanced. But with that, that's, I'm not sure if I had commented on it yet or not, because the date is escaping me when it was, but our new GM of Community Services, we had a great meeting at Cooper's Green Hall with some of her staff, as well as with members of the Half Moon Bay Community Association and the Cooper's Green Replacement Project, and they were absolutely thrilled, and have gotten lots of positive response from that meeting. So, looking forward to getting further updates as that project moves through its process, I guess. So, thank you very much, GM Gagnon, for being there and arranging that. It was very much appreciated. With that, we're not going in camera today. We have no new business. So I'm going to look for a motion to adjourn and then see if we have any questions from the public. So a motion to adjourn and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion carries. Any questions from the public that have come in? Seeing as our gallery is empty and our online gallery is empty. Nothing's come in? Great. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye now.